Arranged marriages? Forced marriages? Starbucks coffee? Ethians? Beheadings? Becoming the Queen of England? Running through the palace of Versailles naked? Handling poisonous snakes? My name's Danielle Norris, and those are all topics that happen in the following books. Imagine you're sitting on this beautiful college campus away from home for the first time in your life, when all of a sudden this boy runs up to you and says, "Hello, future wife. I am ready to start our lives together." What would you do? Well, if you're anything like our main character Dimple, you would take that Starbucks coffee you're drinking, throw it in his face, and run away. Dimple is an Indian American teen. She enjoys coding and academics more than she enjoys looking for a husband. And this does not make her mother happy. Her parents love her, but they want her to find the perfect man. So instead of leaving it into Dimple's hands, they arrange for Dimple to marry Rishi. Rishi is an Indian American teen, but he is more concerned with being the perfect Indian American teen. He wants to do what his parents want him to do and have the future that they have planned for him. Dimple and Rishi's parents decide to send them to InsomniaCon. This makes Dimple really happy. Dimple is looking forward to learning about coding and to go to this intensive summer camp. She's also looking forward to meeting her idol. But Rishi is just looking forward to meeting Dimple, and that is the reason why he's there. Once they get to InsomniaCon, Dimple and Rishi end up getting partnered together, and Dimple realizes maybe he's not that half bad. But is she ready to give up her bright future for a boy? Find out in the romantic comedy When Dimple Met Rishi by Saeed Menon. On the other side of arranged marriages, we go into our next book. Nalia Raman. He says, "Do you accept?" "Accept? Accept what?" He lets out a ragged cough. "Nalia Raman, do you accept this marriage?" "Marriage?" My mouth goes dry. I struggle against the foggy sensation eloping me that prevented me from understanding any of this until now. This is a wedding. This is my wedding. A table is placed in front of me with a long white paper and a blue pen. "Do you accept?" he asked again. "No," I tell him. Warm tears trail down my face. "I don't accept." "No." No one replies. Did I say these words out loud, or am I simply imagining all of this? Maybe this is just a bad dream I can't escape. I try standing up, but rough hands shove me back down. Thick hands push the pen towards me. I flatten my palm, but someone pushes my hands together, forcing my fingers around the pen. Gripped by the elbows, pushed down at the shoulders, I watch my hand make the motions, incoherent ink, writing out the semblance of a name. My name. The pen falls from my hands and I hear loud voices and laughter. The scene I just read was the wedding of our main character, Nalia. Nalia is a Pakistani American teen. She has had one rule her whole life. She is not allowed to date, and she will have an arranged marriage. But of course, Nalia falls in love with another Pakistani American teen from her town. This upsets her parents, so they send her to Pakistan, hoping to sway her away from this boy. But unbeknownst to her, they're also arranging her marriage. Nalia is not comfortable with this. She's not ready to get married. She thought she was going to go to college, and she had a bright future ahead. To find out if this is her future and if it's really written in the stars for her to marry a man that she doesn't know, read Written in the Stars by Aisha Saeed. Written in the Stars and When Dimple Met Rishi are both about the culture of arranged marriages. But the difference is that When Dimple Met Rishi, it's about respect and still having a little bit of a choice for the teens involved. Written in the Stars, Nalia is forced to marry this man through coercion and also drugging. Written in the Stars is definitely dark and has some very intense moments, whereas When Dimple Met Rishi is kind of funny and a romantic comedy. These two books read together kind of give you an overview of arranged marriages and forced marriages and what some cultures and some teens, American and from other cultures and other countries, experience. So to kind of find out about arranged marriages and forced marriages, read these two books, When Dimple Met Rishi and Written in the Stars. Lady Jane Grey. You have probably never heard of Lady Jane Grey. Lady Jane Grey was an aristocratic lady in England. She is named the Queen of England after her cousin dies, King Edward. She reigns for exactly 9 days until Edward's sister, Mary, overtakes the throne and has Lady Jane Grey beheaded. Jane, well, at this time, England was going through turmoil when it comes to the Catholic Church and the Church of England. Jane is a supporter of the Church of England, whereas Mary is a supporter of the Catholic Church. So that's kind of what engulfs this whole situation and leads Jane into getting beheaded. But the authors and narrators of our story want to change up history a bit. They don't like that story, so they want to give us a new one. So instead of a battle between religions, this is a battle between Ethians and non-Ethians. Ethians are basically shapeshifters. They are people who are able to turn into an animal. Jane is not an Ethian, but her cousin Edward arranges her to marry a boy named Gifford. Gifford is an Ethian, and he spends every day as a horse. Jane has no idea. So what ensues is a hilarious, kind of ridiculous novel of political intrigue and death plots and shape-shifting and magic and laugh out loud funny kind of moments with some quirky narrators. So to find out what happens and if Jane ends up being beheaded like she is in real life, read My Lady Jane by Cynthia Han, Brodi, Ashton, and Jodi Meadows. Our next book is another kind of silly book. A grand tour is kind of a trip that 20-somethings and teenagers of England would take, and they would travel around Europe with a group. They would learn about the cultures of different areas of Europe, and then they would come home and they would kind of settle down, whether that's starting a family, getting married, taking over a family business, and things like that. Well, our main character, Monty, has no desire to settle down. Monty is kind of a rake. He is rich, he is handsome, and he loves drinking, gambling, and flirting with cute girls and boys. He is also hopelessly in love with his best friend, Percy. But that doesn't stop him from flirting with other people. Percy, Monty, and Monty's sister, Felicity, are all going on a grand tour around Europe. But Monty is warned when he takes this grand tour, he needs to make sure that he behaves himself, follows the rules, and that when he comes home, he is ready to start his life, or he will be cut off from his father. Well, on their first stop, they visit the Palace of Versailles in France. And what does Monty do? Monty ends up stealing a valuable item, getting chased out of the palace naked, and getting separated from the tour. What ensues is Percy, Monty, and Felicity having to use their wits to survive being stranded basically in Europe without any money and with a bad guy chasing them and without the privilege that they're used to. So to find out if Monty is ever able to straighten up and get out of these hijinks, read The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzi Lee. Both My Lady Jane and The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue are historical fiction with some fantasy elements. My Lady Jane is definitely more fantasy. And My Lady Jane is based on real people, but this is not the real story. So be warned, you will not be reading something that actually happened when you read My Lady Jane. I recommend both of these if you like to laugh. They are both silly. They are both funny. The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue is a little bit racier, whereas My Lady Jane's pretty clean. But they're both really great books and something that a lot of readers will enjoy, especially if you like light, funny, historical fiction, a little bit of fantasy reads. For many of you, it is your final year of high school. You are trying to figure out what you're going to do with the future. Are you going to stay home and kind of stay in the same town you've always been in? Are you going to go off to college and have a bright new future? Are you going to start working right away? These are the questions that our main characters go through in our next book. Dill is the son of a disgraced Pentecostal minister. His father used to be a pastor at a church where they handled snakes. So what that means is that they would hold poisonous snakes to prove their faith. Well, his father is arrested for a crime not related to being the pastor, and this puts Dill even more of an outcast than he already was. So Dill at first was an outcast because of his family's religious beliefs, but now because his father is in jail, he is outcast from his church and from his community. Dill only really has his two friends, Travis and Lydia. Travis looks like a really big and strong boy, but he ends up having a heart of gold. He is more concerned with a fantasy novel series, kind of like Game of Thrones, than he is being strong and looking intimidating. Lydia is an outcast of the town, but she also runs a semi-famous fashion blog. She knows that she is getting out one day, and that is what she wants to do. Dill is able to kind of function in this town with the help of his two friends. His music, but he also has a huge crush on Lydia. Our story is one of love, heartbreak, laughter, finding yourself, discovering who you are, figuring out your future, and who you want to be when you're older, and leaving behind your family's legacy. To find out what happens to Dill and his friends, read The Serpent King by Zentner. I hope you enjoyed these books and you found something that you'll like to read. A little reminder, My Lady Jane and The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue are actually both series. My Lady Jane, the sequel, is not a direct sequel, so it's kind of in the same style, but you're not going to have any of the same characters. But The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue does have a second book in the series. So just to recap on the books that we discussed today, we had When Dimple Met Rishi, Written in the Stars, My Lady Jane, The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, and The Serpent King. Thank you for watching.